Game 4 here of my Sligo 2025 recap, and we are playing against Curran and facing the d4 system with knight c3 here. And I believe this is the Jobava system, where the plan is to put a little pressure on this c7 pawn. And I played d5 here, but normally one of the main responses here is to play bishop b4, where white's pawn can jump to b5 here as it's pinned. But after d5, white continues with their plan here to play knight b5, and I responded with bishop d6. If I had to face this system again now, I think most likely there's two other ways I would have gone about this. First of all is this knight b6, which immediately protects the c7 pawn, or I'll play this bishop b4 with a check, and white normally plays c3 here, and I can just then jump to a5, and I have the b6 square here to retreat to if my bishop is threatened again. So, but anyway, after bishop d6, white plays knight takes d6, I play c takes, and they play e3. We then castle here, and white starts getting ready to castle on the king side themselves by developing their minor pieces, and I played queen b6, and at this point I wasn't worried about losing this pawn if I could win the b2 pawn myself. So white continues that development here with bishop d3, and I played queen takes b2, and white takes my d6 pawn, and I give a check here. White plays king e2 here, which surprised me a little bit because they just give away their castling rights. It's a position where I was expecting knight d2, and they can then castle afterwards. They obviously can't play queen d2 here because then the rook is hanging. But anyway, then I play rook d8, which, looking at it now, I probably wouldn't have played that. Rook e8 was the move to play, because this simply invites bishop e7, and white is about to destroy my pawn structure on the king side. So after rook e8, they play bishop takes f6, and I have this double pawn structure here on the f file. White plays queen d2, and just looking at my position here, I thought it was best to just play the queen exchange. And after king takes d2, I develop a knight, and white plays knight h4. And now I wasn't really bothered by this double pawn structure, because then I can play e5, where white can help me fix this with d takes e4. But really, white shouldn't have taken here, because this just kind of helps me solve my problem. White then plays bishop f5, and I wasn't keen on taking on bishop f5 here. Say if I play bishop takes f5, they play knight takes, and white's knight is in a kind of a troublesome position for me in my ranks here, which is kind of hard to dislodge. Because say if I play knight e7, white has this annoying move here where they can play knight d6, and I have to defend this b7 pawn. And now I have my rooks in kind of a cramped position. Another option I saw for white here, say rather knight d6, if they play something like say g4, and I decide to take on f5, and I play g takes f5. Now white's rooks get an active file here on the g file, which I didn't like that much. So After bishop e5, I played knight e7, and I left it up to white if they wanted to take my bishop, and they do take, and I play rook on a takes c8, and now white plays an interesting move here with f4, which is somewhat bad. Why is this move bad? Well, it leaves a weakened e3 pawn here, while their king is still stuck in the center, so it makes their king position a bit weak. And as well, let's say they haven't moved the f pawn yet. White could have used, rather, they could have played a rook move, say rook on edge to c1 or b1, and then kind of moved or retreated their king back to the king side for a safe position. So after f4 here, I played rook c4, and white can't exactly take by playing f takes to e5, because then the knight is hanging. So they rightly protected their pawn there with g3, and I played rook on edge, rook on e moves to c8 to double up on that c2 pawn. White protects that pawn, and I played e4. Now it's interesting to have a look at this, because white's knight is kind of restricted in influencing the game, and they have to reroute, say, to g2 and e1, and still then they are still blocked by this c2 pawn. White then plays knight g2, and I play king g7 to activate my king, and then white played g4, and at this moment here white offers a draw, and I stupidly agreed to a draw without realizing how better the position was for black in this position. Let's just take a moment to review here. Black's king is safe here, and I can activate my king without any counterplay from white. White has a very passive a1 rook, and the king and the c1 rook are tied to a defense. They have a knight here, which is really influencing the game. While as black here, I have active rooks which are ready to spring into action, and white has a weak e3 position here, and I still have the option to kind of activate my knight, but I think it was just due to mental fatigue or frustration from losing the previous games that I just couldn't see a way to actually take advantage of this position. Because now looking at it, like even a move like say h5, and if a g takes, it's still winning here for black, and there was plenty of ways this game could have been won in the end game. I simply just had to grind down and build upon the advantageous position I had. But well, that's the life of over the board tournaments. You live and learn, and this game finished as a draw.